Welcome back. To continue our discussion looking at temperament in children, joining me once again is Dr. Robert Hudson, clinical professor at the University of Oklahoma School of Community Medicine. Doc, I'm almost always running out of time, so you have to work with me here. Let's jump in then. We were talking about the child who's cautious or maybe take more time to respond, to kind of kick into gear of what we would want. So what would a parent do if they have that type of child and that is not the parent's temperament, or they're not understanding the child's temperament?
Right. And this is a conflict that is built in parenting and is to understand the parent's own temperament. And sometimes I do the adults also, and we put a family grid together, and then it's pretty obvious where the conflicts are coming from. But take the child that's very cautious or shy and resist anything new. He only resists something new until it's not new. But say the child is 6 months and you're going to give him or a year green peas. So most parents today put green peas on the plate. The child that's cautious rejects them because they're brand new, so they pick them up. Another 4 weeks pass and then they put them back down. They're brand new again.
Right.
So the way to do it is to put peas on their plate every day for a week. The first night, you just look at it. The second night, have him touch it. The third night, have him smell it. The fourth night, have him taste it or lick it. And then it's not new. And so then he either likes peas or not because they're peas, not because it's new.
Okay, so it's kind of like a gradual introduction of whatever may be new to the child or not experienced before.
Right. Say you want to try a new restaurant and he insists on going to the same restaurant. Okay, same thing. So you say as you pass that restaurant, you know, one of these days we're going to go to that restaurant. And so the next time you say, you know, I'm just going to pull in here and look and see what it looks like at the front. And you just drive by. And the next time you say, you know, I really want to sort of see inside to see what it looks like and see what it smells like. Let's go inside. So you park and you walk inside and then you come back out. Then the next time when you decide we're going to go there, you let him know in plenty of time, and then it's not new.
Well, let me ask you this. I think I already know the answer to it, but let me ask you this for parents that may say, well, like Chuck E. Cheese or people coming over to the home, even with my youngest son at the time, a new person coming to the home and he was just out of control. And so as a result, I would remove him from that environment.
You mean he would melt down? Yes,
he would melt down. So I would remove him from that environment so he's not there while that person is there. But I think what I was doing is not still allowing him to gradually get introduced to this new person.
That's one of the things that could be happening. A couple of other temperament traits that may be playing a part, because they're not born with just one temperament trait.
Exactly.
And if they're less adaptable, then and they didn't know someone new was coming over, then when they become overwhelmed, regardless of which of the temperament traits that are at risk, they become overwhelmed, they lock up. If you keep pushing, they melt down, and if you keep pushing, they lash out.
Okay, so in that case, let me ask you if I'm getting it here, Doc. In that situation, what the parent could do is sort of announce that there is a person coming to visit and describe them and tell a little bit about why they're here and things like that. So the person,
tell them what's going to happen.
Yes, and you know, and I started getting into that by saying this is where we're going to go at this time and this time, or this is what I'm going to do at this time, this time. So in a way, I just kind of eased into it in terms of preparation. Right,
and you've got two temperament traits at play here. The child that's non-adaptable gets very anxious if they don't know what's going to happen in the future. They're always asking what's going to happen. So the more you tell them what's going to happen in the future, the more they can relax.
Okay, and then when that does happen, they can ease into it better.
Right. Now, the other example you said was when you went into Chuck E. Cheese.
Yes.
Okay. One of the temperament traits that's so fascinating is called sensory threshold. How much sensory input, whether it's noise or smell or temperature or pain, does it take for them to appreciate? If they have a very low sensory threshold, they're very sensitive to low levels of noise, and you're that way, and you walk into Chuck E. Cheese, man, it's overload.
You're right.
You lock up, and you say, we're staying, and they melt down. And so these kids don't like Chuck E. Cheese. They like quieter places to go to. Now, on the other side, if they have a very high sensory threshold, they like loud noise. But they also have problems with nonverbal communication, and they have trouble with the social issues.
Okay.
They don't understand space, so they're always getting too close to other kids, which makes the children uncomfortable.
Okay.
And so there's a social conflict there.
Okay, because they basically want to be where the action is, and if there isn't any, let's create some.
Absolutely.
Whereas the other child may not want all this action
That's exactly
and need
right.
this space.
They're the ones that have to have their shoes tied 13 times till they feel right. You know,
Okay.
or they get too hot, something has to, you know, and the neurophysiologists have said, you know, we have to fix, for the low sensory threshold, we have to fix it. But these are the empathetic kids, as opposed to the ones with the high sensory threshold who really don't feel your pain.
And I can truly say that with my youngest. My others are like that too, other two that I have. But just remembering him more clearly, since he was the youngest in terms of age. But he is a very empathetic. It's almost like you can tell him something, and you can see that he feels what your pain is.
He has a lower sensory threshold, and so I would say he's not going to be a fan of Chuck E. Cheese.
Right. You know, even
so you overwhelm him, and they lock up. You keep there, and he melts down.
And even I can remember bringing home at that time, the raisins were very popular, little raisins. They were so cute. And I saw a big stuffed one in the store, and I thought it was just the bomb. Brought it home, and he just freaked. Had to put the raisin in the closet.
Right.
But it was that same kind of thing. I'm introducing something new.
It's new, it's changed, you know, and it's
Okay. Let me ask this. How does someone in an educational setting, in a school system or working with children, how do they work with children who have this type of temperament?
You know, that's very interesting. There's a book called Temperament in the Classroom that a PhD from UCLA wrote, and I do a lot of teacher workshops, and I think that, number one, they have to, just like parents, understand how children are wired differently so they don't, you know, if a child melts down, I call it a mud hole experience. If the parent or the teacher is causing this poor fit, then they're really pushing the child in the mud hole. You know, the child can drive themselves to the mud hole. You know, a non-adaptable child that comes down wanting to eat Frosted Flakes for breakfast and there's no Frosted Flakes may melt down because they can't solve that problem of what next.
Okay.
And that's what I help parents with, is to teach the child how to solve a problem of what next. Because if you get upset, you lose 50 IQ points and you can't solve that problem.
Right.
So you keep your thinking cap on, and we've got a problem to solve here, and that kind of an approach. But again, it's you try your best to understand what are possibilities. Well, a third of the children are non-adaptable. So if the teacher abruptly changes something, a third of the class is going to get locked up.
Right.
So if you're sailing along and all of a sudden the teacher says, "Put up your pencils, we're going outside."
Yeah, it's like, whoa,
whoa,
right,
yeah, that's not where my brain was.
Right.
You know, so in telling parents and helping parents and teachers is announce what you expect within a time frame, and that allows these children brain to catch up to the transition. So you say, I expect you, or we're going to, in 5 minutes, we're putting our pencils up and we're going outside. That gives them transition time to get their brains where you want their brains to be.
Okay. We're going to take another really quick break and come back and pick up on that. And I want to talk about, where do options play in relation to children with this type of temperament?
Oh,
okay. Stay with us. We'll be right back.